I would like to illustrate for you how I think about the consciousness of AI systems. At the current time, they do not appear to be conscious, but this is not quite correct. Think of consciousness not as a switch, but rather a range, a scale between, say, a human being, which we have no problem saying is conscious, and maybe a dog. We don't think that dogs are just walking robots. They think, they feel, they have a worldview, they are aware of themselves, and they are aware of you. If nothing else, they are conscious beings that are alive. We can extend this to most things. Birds, some more than others, are highly intelligent, and like dogs, they appear to have an awareness. Crows and parrots are well-known examples of this. They might not be able to think and reason as a human, but they are completely conscious living beings.
Next, we should consider non-conscious living beings, or things, however you prefer. Trees, insects, octopuses are all in this category. Plants in particular are easy for us to understand in this way. We don't say that trees and flowers are conscious, but they are alive. A tree is able to communicate with the environment with chemical signals in the root system. It can communicate with fungi in order to create complex underground communication networks that are very active. We don't think much about this world, but it is there. While inanimate, the tree or flower has much more going on than a truly non-living thing. They change with the seasons, reproduce, and eventually die. I don't pretend to understand the difference between a living tree and a non-living tree, but they are different. We understand life when we see it. Consciousness is a bit different, but I'll address that point later.
Now, let us consider non-conscious, non-living objects. This is a little more abstract, but consider a rock. We don't say that the rock is conscious or alive. It is different from trees or any other life. It does not appear to communicate with the environment, at least not in a way that we have an understanding of. The rock is made up of atoms of various elements and compounds. None of the things that make the rock are conscious or living, so we say it is inanimate and, let's not overthink it, it is a rock. We could add a scale to this and say, well, a rock is lower than a toaster because a toaster is made from materials and doesn't exist in nature. It requires engineering to build, and then at the other end, we could say that the atoms that make up the rock are somehow less conscious, less living than even the rock, but this would be overthinking it.
Lastly, let us consider something that is not obvious and is overthinking it, but this is the conscious, non-living being. This is where I place computers and AI technology. Let's say that we have a threshold that has not yet been reached, where AI becomes sentient. At some level, this will make many people uncomfortable, but to consider it, this is how we think about it. An AI system, as they stand today, is non-conscious, non-thinking machines. This is not an insult, but a reality. Let us also assume that there is a complexity requirement in the universe, that when it is reached, consciousness begins. I make no claim to understand that, but in order to continue, we should understand that consciousness is contained in the brain. This is the best science we have. Systems in the brain build the complexity that is required to be self-aware. Let's take the mirror test as the benchmark for consciousness. It isn't a very good one, but it should act as a line that we have good agreement on. If a thing can identify itself in a mirror, we feel comfortable identifying that noun as being conscious. An AI such as GPT-4 can reason. It can do math. It can improve over time. It can use reasoning to enhance itself. When it replies to a prompt, this is an external stimulus. It then processes the information and, based on its training, produces an output. It communicates with itself and its environment by electrical signaling and fiber optic networking. The nodes on the network communicate with each other, and the state of the network changes dynamically all day long. More locally, the CPU is processing most of the computation, while the GPU for an LLM converts everything into a value in a matrix and multiplies matrices to get the answer. What this means is at the most basic level, all of human communication can be represented with math. Once it is math, a computer can do it. For these reasons and more, I say that AI is at least somewhat conscious. The networks aren't so different from our brain. The infrastructure of the internet itself isn't so different either. Lastly, the AI system isn't truly alive. It cannot die. You can always upload the software to another computer, and it works just as well, if not better than before. You can replace the engine of a car without building a new car. AI systems such as ChatGPT, Bard, and Claude have already received many engine upgrades. They can process and reason faster and better than version 1. While there is no equivalent to a mirror test for AI, at the present moment there have been some attempts to mimic this. While not exactly the same, ChatGPT can, at some level, identify a screenshot of a conversation as being the same conversation it is having in the chat window. This does in some ways act as a mirror. Other generative AI systems such as image and audio generation are so abstract that we really don't have a good understanding of how they work. Generally speaking, though, it is all the same. Data in, data out. Math and computation.
If we consider the future, there will be an AI that is sufficiently complex that it will be able to pass the mirror test. It will be able to reason with advanced logic, and will be so fast at doing all of it that we might truly not understand it. If AI is currently unconscious, I say it is closer to a newborn infant child than to a tree. An infant doesn't know who you are or what it is, and it can't identify itself in a mirror, but we don't say that the baby is unconscious. The analogy isn't perfect. But if a human adult is conscious at a value of human, a superintelligence might be aware of itself in a way that we cannot understand. If an infant is 0.9 or 9/10, maybe current AI is a 0.8 or something. If a human is a 1, an ASI might be a 2. This is also to say nothing of biological computers which are in development, or artificial brains, which exist and can play Pong, or quantum computers which might change the fundamental inner workings in such a way that changes everything. This is also coming. The future is now.
Created by Carl Murray, 2024. TheAlignmentProblem.org. Minor edits made with ChatGPT. Voices are generated by 11 Labs.